Geo was the most powerful 16-bit home console ever produced. SNK had this vision of producing quality games for the arcade, with the ability to play them at home with no loss in quality. The downside to this idea was the price. The console itself was a very expensive machine, and the games too were very costly. On average, they were around £200 each. I purchased my Neo Geo in summer 1994, purely so I could play Samurai Showdown at home, but I did pick up other titles for it over a short period of time. And I also passed up the opportunity to pick up titles for it as well. Well, Shock Troopers was not one of those titles, as for some strange reason, it never got a release on the AES. Well, not officially at least. And one has to ask, was this a decision that SNK came to regret? Some collectors have it, but that is a modified MVS game in an AES cart, and while it was readily available to play on MVS, collecting for the Neo Geo had not become the expensive hobby it is today, and so many collectors just opted to buy an old MVS cabinet or an adapter that would allow MVS games to run on an AES. But I was glad I discovered it in emulation, that's all I can say. But ignoring all that collector stuff for a moment, this game is actually a game that is still worth playing today. Shock Troopers is a run-and-gun arcade game developed by Saurus and published by SNK in 1997 for the Neo Geo arcade. Gameplay involves taking command of one of 3 soldiers in an 8-way shooter. And the game differs from other shooters of this type. Firstly, when the game begins, you get to pick a team or play as a solo player. In Lonely Wolf, one character is controlled throughout the game, while Team Battle allows selecting a band of 3 soldiers through their missions, switching between them on the fly. Choosing to go alone gives a higher starting life total, while proceeding as a team will give a wider variety of special weapons as well as a higher starting total. At the beginning of the game, there is also a choice to travel through the mountain, jungle or valley route. Halfway through the game, a different route can optionally be chosen, otherwise stay on the current path. Characters and paths chosen determine how much life bonus is received at the beginning of each level. Each stage is interspersed with boss battles, both in the middle and at the end of each stage, until the very end, battling the enemy commander atop an aircraft. Players must progress through 7 levels, each ending in a boss fight. The weapons can be fired in all 8 directions, but holding down the fire button allows strafing. Attacking within close range of an enemy will yield items, including point bonuses, weapon power-ups and life. Enemy fire can be avoided with the dodge button. In the team battle mode, the 3 selected soldiers can be cycled to utilise the traits and special weapons of each. Visually, this game was old hat looking by the time I played it in emulation in 1999. But in 1997, it was probably just beginning to look dated. But it would have had very little other games to compare it with at the time, as in arcades, most games were either racing or fighting 3D polygonal games. But with the now aging limitations of the Neo Geo hardware, they had to stick to the use of sprites, and for the most part, while they look dated, they are still of a very high quality. Let's not get misunderstood here. The game's visuals are great. They just look a little dated, that's all. The main sprites are well animated, along with all the enemies, tanks, blockades, jetpacks, motorbikes, and pretty much anything else that moves. And I just love the enemy soldier animation when they burn with their arms flailing about just before they succumb to their wounds. It's just brilliant. The explosions are superb, with the small fireball and then the bellowing smoke from whatever it is you have just blown up. The backgrounds are a little odd. They look almost pre-rendered in some places, and in others less so. But they all have a huge amount of colour and detail, and look just gorgeous. Especially on this mountain level, the depth of the background really does contribute to the sense of height. The sound is absolutely brilliant in this game. There are lots of sampled sound effects for things like helicopters, tanks, jeeps, trains, etc. And in this game, they all sound fantastic. The sound from all the gunshots and explosions are outstanding too. This was always one of the things I really loved about the Neo Geo and its arcade at home experience. The sound was always so much better than that of the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, and it really did provide a huge amount of atmosphere to every game they released on a console. The music throughout the whole game is great. Some tunes sound like Euro dance tracks of the day, and one of the levels reminds me of the Apollo 440 tune, Talking About Dub. The music was great from a game that was not running on a CD, and I thought it was very fitting of each scene. The gameplay is brilliant. It's not just merely another Commando clone, it's way more addictive than that. With a good roster of playable characters, 2 different game modes, and path selections, there is enough to keep you coming back for more, and you will. When I first discovered it in emulation, I couldn't stop playing the thing. It was hugely addictive, if a little easy. Well, I certainly remember it being a lot easier than when I played it for this video. I guess my reactions are just slowing down as I get older, but at least it's not costing me a fortune in credits, as emulation is free. At the time of its release, Shock Troopers was not massively well received, but over the years it has developed a cult following, and even spawned a sequel, which is absolutely brilliant as well. Anyway, that was my look back at Shock Troopers. If you like this video, then please do give me a sub and a thumbs up, or maybe even a comment or 2 below about your memories of Shock Troopers. And a massive thank you to all of those who have commented on my videos and subscribed to my channel. Your comments, interactions and support really do go a long way in helping the channel grow, and I do appreciate all of you, so thank you from me. And that's all from me, folks. Thanks for watching.